Please work. I think it's working. I think we're live. I think things are going. Leah, can I get the thumbs up that you can see things working on your end? It looks like it's working on my end. Uh, Thumbs up. Awesome. How's it going, everybody? I am super excited to be here. It looks like I got to turn some things off. All right. We are good to go, guys. How's everybody doing? I am so happy you guys are joining here. This is amazing. This is going to be a really, really fun event, especially for me. And I think if it's going to be fun for me, it's going to make it really fun for you guys. I really cannot wait to get started. I can already see that we have people coming in here and are getting started. Can you guys make sure that you can hear me? I can see somebody said that they can't hear me. I got a thumbs up from Cody Wood. I appreciate you. Thank you. If you guys cannot hear me, please let me know. But it seems like we're pretty good. We're just going to let a few people kind of roll in here, guys, and get going and get started. So thank you, everybody, for letting me know you can hear me. I appreciate it. I think we're good on that end. But guys, it's rare for me to do these workshops, right? This is actually only the second time ever that I've done a workshop. And I kind of hold them off for these big things that I want to be able to do for the community of Airbnb. I love every single last thing about Airbnb. And so I'm super excited for this one. Just so you guys all know, like the reason we're doing this presentation, the, how to find a profitable property without analysis paralysis is because so many people come to me and tell me like, I can't make a decision, or I don't know if I have a good property, or I can't figure this out, or I can't figure out what market to go in. I can't figure out this, blah, 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 blah. It's just constantly like this loop of not being able to figure it out. And they have the data, they have all the resources, they have all this stuff, but then they're getting lost in this cycle of not being able to figure it out. And that's analysis paralysis, right? Like that is exactly the issue that happens over and over and over again. And so what I want to try and do, and one of my core goals with this presentation, this workshop, is to make the process so simple that you know when you've come to a good decision. And once you know that you've come to a good decision, you can pull the trigger and have the confidence to be able to do that. So that's one of the main things I'm trying to do here, is make sure that you guys can understand the process so well that you can make that decision more easily. So that's what we're going for. That's what's going to happen. Again, we're going to kind of continue to let a little bit more people come in here, just because people tend to be a little bit late, but I'm a pretty punctual person myself. So, we're not going to wait too long for people who are a little not showing up on time. I'm going to make sure we're good to go. So I don't really know much else that I'm going to really can talk about here or kill time. I just want to get started, and I'm sure you guys want to get started too. So we will. And just so you guys know, we're going to hold off questions to the end. I will be bringing somebody in to answer questions as well as we get to the very end. But one other thing I want to mention here before we got started, which was some housekeeping, but I can't remember it. So let's just get started instead. So let me share my screen here. Give me 1 second. I'm going to pull that up, and we're going to just start the presentation. So I hope you guys are all ready to go and ready to get started. I know a lot of other people will be like, hey, where are you from? What are things going on? Blah, blah, blah. I don't really care. You guys came here for information. So let's get started. I hope you guys are ready. I hope you're going to enjoy this as well. So I'm going to share my screen, and we're just going to get into it. All right. So let me make sure we are set up, and we are perfect. Okay. Let's share my screen. We're going to do this entire screen. There we go. And now we are pulling up over here. And here we go, guys. So we are going to how to find profitable Airbnbs without analysis paralysis. That is the idea of the presentation today. That's why you guys are here. Of course, there is a bit of an announcement that we're going to be getting into as well. That's going to be quite exciting. I think every single last one of you should be excited about that. And I promise you, it will be worth the wait. I promise you, before we get started. But regardless, let's get into it. How to find profitable Airbnbs without analysis paralysis. My promise is if you follow the process that I will teach you today, you will have the skill to know how to find profitable Airbnbs. This workshop will help two types of people: the do-it-yourselfers, those who need to provide for themselves and their families, and those looking to work with the experts. During this workshop, I will be teaching you my main process. This process has helped me acquire over 140 properties for one client. And I think you guys might know who that client is, right? Of those 140 properties, they are all cash flow positive, not a single dud. Do you know how crazy of a resume that is to be able to do? This process has allowed me to analyze 300 plus markets and to find 20 plus markets with high cash flowing opportunities. This process that I'm going to teach accurately predicted the revenue of 74 properties. You can see that number there at the bottom right. I'm going to bring that one up a little bit later. And also this sheet here, I'm going to be bringing that up as well. This process has enabled me to discover how to increase revenue by $100,000 for the same home through strategic design and amenities. This process has enabled me to discover how to increase revenue by $100,000 for the same home or same type of home through strategic design and amenities. And it also allowed me to help 100 plus people in the last 6 months be able to avoid a bad deal, have the confidence to close on a good deal, or improve their own properties. And I did this all within less than 2 years. And in those 2 years, America had some of the highest interest rates in history. This process works. The proof is in the results. I used all 4 processes, which I'll show you shortly, to make this happen. It's a skill that once you've learned it, you can utilize it forever. It's the most crucial skill to secure the right property to give yourself the best chance of success right from the start. Everything else, such as how to message a guest, how to restock the coffee, all of that stuff can be figured out afterwards, okay? This data process is the most important piece to an Airbnb business, which is why my business revolves around it. My company mission is to ensure that no one buys an unprofitable Airbnb again. My promise, once again, is to ensure that today you have the skill to find profitable Airbnbs. Getting better at business is all about leveling up your skills, right? So I want to give you a skill that is going to allow you to level up your Airbnb game. This process will work for anyone, okay? It's going to work for real estate experts. It's going to work for regular people working regular jobs, right? Anybody who's working a regular job and they want to get out of that regular job, they want to get to the W-2, like they want to quit their W-2 and live off Airbnbs. This stuff is for you guys, right? Someone who's bad at math. This one I get all the time. People are like, I'm not good at data because I'm not good at math. The thing is there's no math in the process I'm going to teach you. None, nothing. So that's not an excuse that you can use if you're bad at math. Non-data scientists, non-analysts, literally anyone this process is going to work for, all right? And I know this will work for anyone because it's worked for, these are a bunch of people I've worked with, project managers, salespeople, healthcare providers, real estate experts, TV producers, and myself, who is not a trained analyst. I'm not a trained analyst, guys. I do not have a formal background on it. I had to figure this stuff out for myself. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's find some profitable Airbnbs, right? However, let's address something before we get too into it. For anyone who knows me, you know that I've released 3 free Airbnb day courses, and you may be wondering, am I finally going to sell you a course, right? Well, I can't address that just yet. However, I do have some extremely exciting news. And again, guys, I promise you it will be worth the wait. And for those of you who stick around to the end, I promise you it'll be worth the wait. There it is again. However, on top of that, just in case you need a little bit more motivation, if you stick around, I will be giving you my $500 underwriting sheet for free. This is a sheet that I use to underwrite short-term rentals to see if they'd be good or bad. I paid $500 for it, and I actually ended up paying someone else to edit it even further because I needed to tweak it a whole bunch so that it actually worked properly. So technically, it's over $500. If you stick around, this is a little cherry I'm putting out there so that you guys stick around to the end because I want you to hear all this exciting stuff. Now, let's officially get into this process. The process to find profitable Airbnbs starts with markets, right? This is how I learned it, and then I'm going to show you what you can do today, all right? I started off in a small town in Canada. For anyone who didn't know that, I'm Canadian, that had no real travel demand, which required me to launch a property in Detroit if I wanted to give this Airbnb thing a try, right? However, I knew that I wanted to expand to another / better location using AirDNA's old investment explorers. This is like their OG software. I was able to find profitable properties in Siesta Key, Florida. I packed up everything I owned and drove down to Siesta Key. That was a 24-hour drive, only to find out that where I wanted to open up an Airbnb was illegal. I then studied the data for the next closest Florida market, found a profitable pocket, drove there, and realized once again that I couldn't make it work in that area. This is a really bad process, is what I'm trying to say. This process repeated for a month with me going to over 4 different markets, nearly living out of my car and eating peanut butter sandwiches basically every day. That's all I could afford at the time. This was clearly not the way to do it, guys, obviously, right? However, it forced me to start studying regulations before data. Nowadays, that's the most obvious thing, which led me to Chicago, where I eventually launched 15 Airbnbs, started an arbitrage, management, and cleaning business. The original process was extremely flawed, but I learned from my mistakes and I created a better process to find profitable markets. Since then, I've studied over 300 markets. 5 of those markets stood out the most. However, another 15 markets could work for anyone. That's how I learned it, guys. Here's what you can do today. Check for 2 things. Again, trying to make this as simple as possible. Regulations, 20% rule. However, I want you to start off by finding a market that you care about. This is one of the more important things that people tend to miss. Pick a market, guys, that you actually care about. If you like to golf, find a golf market. If you like mountains, find a mountain market. If you like the beach, find a beach market, right? It's really that simple. Check to ensure that the regulations allow Airbnb. Nowadays, this is extremely common knowledge, but regulation comes before data, and that's why I had to make sure that I at least mentioned it within this presentation. Then use AirDNA to see if the properties meet the 20% rule. The 20% rule is the price to rent ratio. If the revenue of the Airbnb is 20% of the purchase price, then the property will most likely cash flow. However, you can go as low as 15% in some markets and it will still cash flow. I have said for a very long time that you need to meet the 20% rule for it to work. However, I've been working for a client that is a very large client and they have different fees, different structure. And if you are a retail investor and you're doing it yourself, you could go as low as 15% and it's going to work out just fine for you. Okay. So I just wanted to make that statement live to all you guys right now. If you follow that simple process, right, and review many markets, I promise you, you will find markets that have potentially profitable Airbnbs. You will eventually end up with a short list of markets. From there, you'll need to deep dive those markets to truly find profitable Airbnbs, which leads us to the next step in my process. First, we have discovered the markets. Now we are going to go into building a buy box. This is how I learned it, guys. When I started in Detroit, the term buy box wasn't even something that I knew. The properties that I got in Detroit were randomly selected, mainly because I thought they were cool, which is the biggest mistake in the Airbnb game. However, they both ultimately failed. By the time I got to Chicago, I had failed at studying the data for so many different markets that I started to learn how to build a buy box. First, I started off with talking to a local who broke down the different areas of the city, which focused me in on a smaller part of the city. And I simply started to study the top performing properties and, more importantly, the underperforming properties. What I started to realize were the small things that the top performers had that the underperformers did not have. You're going to hear me say that a lot. Pay attention to it. This simple concept allowed me to know what features drove revenue in the Chicago market, which ultimately led me to finding 4 properties within the first month that all cash flowed between $20,000 and $40,000 a year. Since then, I have made it my job to build buy boxes for different markets and try to find the most optimal properties to purchase or rent. Just last year alone, I created 51 buy boxes across the United States. I actually had to go back and check how many I ended up doing. Turned out to be 51. So that's how I learned this, guys. Here's what you can do today. Select one of the markets that you found using the first step in this process, right? You create a short list of markets that met the 20% rule and had good regulations. Start to review all of the top performing listings. Look for the quality. How nice of a home is it? Is it a luxury home, a regular home, a rundown home? Do they have a pool? If so, do they have a square pool or a round pool and above ground pool? Do they have a hot tub or space for a hot tub? What kind of square footage does the home have, right? You want to be making notes on all these different things. You can figure out the square footage just simply by looking at how big the couch is in the living room and how many living rooms they have and how big of a dining room they can put in the dining room. Now, those are ways to figure out how big the home is. The Airbnb listing quality, how well is it actually put together? The key features, does it have a rooftop patio or a backyard? If so, what does it have in those different areas? The interior design, did they give it an interior design, right? The quality of the kitchen and the bathroom. Is it like a beautiful luxury kitchen or not? Do they have a game room? If so, what games do they put inside the game room? And how big is the game room? What colors do they use in the game room? The extra entertainment, such as the cornhole and the mini play. Do they have these things? The quality of the furniture. Is it IKEA furniture? Is it good quality furniture? Does it have style to it? The Airbnb photos, one of the most important things. Ensuring that they are done well, look great. And then the location. How close is it to the thing that people go to that market for? Now, start to review all the underperforming listings and start to make a list of everything they do not have. So here what you're doing is you're looking at all the top performing properties, and then you're going to look at the underperforming properties, and you're starting to realize what those underperformers do not have in comparison, okay? Make notes on everything you're seeing and not seeing, and you'll start to realize what the main revenue drivers are for that market, which will ultimately lead you to finding the properties that meet the 20% rule. However, you need to triple check every single last detail of that property before you move forward with it, which leads us to our next step. We've gone through markets, we've gone through buy boxes. Now we're looking at property forecasting. Property forecasting, here's how I learned it. I took on investors for my Chicago properties, right? This forced me into another level of pressure to ensure that I found profitable properties and did not lose their money. This required me to learn how to forecast/predict how much revenue the properties were going to generate before we got them. And I knew if I could just get this one thing right, that I could end up securing their money, which led me to learning the Burger King logic. And I'm sure most of you have heard me talk about this. McDonald's spends millions of dollars to figure out what corner is the best to be on, and Burger King opens up across the street with the same product. It is the simplest logic to figure out how to compete within a market. This simple logic allowed me to look at who was doing things right and trying to figure out if I could beat them or not. I repeated this process until I started to notice the smallest differences between every listing. Through repetition, I was able to land those first few properties in Chicago and accurately predict their revenue. Since then, I have forecasted well over 1,000 properties, I've gone through multiple different Google Sheets because I had forecasted so many different properties. And as mentioned before, my predictions have been accurate within 31% conservatively, which is exactly where I need to be. So this, I told you I was going to bring this up later in the presentation. That is now. And what this number means is that all of those properties that we got up and running, which is 74 of them at this point, I have predicted hypothetically that they would make 100,000, but they ended up actually making 131,000. Now, most of you would be like, well, 31,000 is a huge variance. And I would agree with you fully. However, I have very conservative numbers, and then I also have best case scenario numbers. And we buy based off of those conservative numbers. And if it works at those numbers, then anything above that is gravy on top, right? So we're okay with this number, but we're always aiming for that best case. And that's what's happening over and over and over again is we're hitting that best case scenario. So that's why that's exactly where I need to be, is I need to be under predicting as much as I possibly can. That's how I learned it. Here's what you can do today. Find the data on all the most comparable properties to the ones you're considering. Order them from who's making the most to who's making the least. Then simply review them one by one and make notes on which listings you'll definitely be able to beat and which listings you will not be able to beat. Okay? Again, trying to make this super, super simple. Eventually, you will come across some properties that you are unsure if you can beat them or not. There's going to be some that are super clear. Can't beat these ones. Definitely can beat these ones. Not sure about these ones. That is likely where you're going to end up falling in the ranking. And that's likely how much money your property is going to make. Okay? And then you repeat that process until you feel extremely confident that you're not missing anything. And at that point, you have my blessing to pull the trigger and get that property. However, once you get that property, you need to design it in a way that will drive the most amount of revenue, which leads me to the next step. We've gone through markets. We've gone through building a buy box. We've gone through property forecasting. We've gone through design and amenities. Here's how I learned it, guys. Sorry, we haven't gone through design and amenities. We're going to go through it right now. Here's how I learned it. I didn't. I have no idea how to design. I'm not good at it. My original investors told me that they wouldn't spend money on a designer, and I was forced to learn how to do it myself. And guess what? I sucked at it. I'm not a designer. I'm a data guy. From there on out, we always hired a designer. However, what I could bring to the table was the data behind the demographics and the amenities that were needed, right? And by creating a buy box and forecasting the revenue for properties in that market, I had come to know the market intimately. And through that process, I realized what amenities were must haves and which demographic is willing to pay the most for them. This has been the secret sauce for most of my work. There is a $100,000 difference between these two identical properties. I have talked about them quite extensively, but they are in the same location. They have the same bedroom count. They have the same size yard. They are literally blocks from each other. And one makes $100,000 more than the other for a very, very good reason. And it all has to do with design and amenities. So that's how I learned it. Here's what you can do today. Make a list of every amenity you see from every top performer and do the same for the underperformers. And once again, simply realize what the top performers have that the underperformers do not have. It doesn't need to be overly complicated. You just need to spend the time studying the finer details of the listing in your market. By following this process, you will know the type of people who spend the most in your market, the best way to allocate your money for maximum return, and how to have one of the best listings in your market, which will ultimately lead to a profitable Airbnb. This process is not easy, but if you put in the time, the results are properties that produce you cash flow year after year. Therefore, it's worth the work. The alternative is to be lazy. Select whichever property you like the most, put all of your savings into it, manage it, and ultimately, potentially, lose money year after year. Then tell no one about it because you don't want to be seen as a failure. This has happened. People have opened up to me over and over and over again about this exact situation, which is why I bring it up. I'm not saying it's everyone, but it happens a lot more than people realize. Can you see how putting in the extra work at the beginning makes far more sense in the long run? Now, guys, even if we had a full day together, I could not possibly teach you every single last finer detail of this process. No matter how good anyone is, a 60-minute presentation is not going to change your life. I've tried to give you enough to have guidance. However, it is just the tip of the iceberg. And if you liked what I just shared, you're going to love what I have next. Once again, my company's mission has always been to ensure that no one buys an unprofitable Airbnb again. And by making that my mission, I'm forced to provide as much value in as many ways as I possibly can to get this knowledge to everyone. If I want to ensure that no one buys an unprofitable Airbnb, I have to make sure that everyone understands these things. So I took my 6 years of Airbnb data analysis, my knowledge from helping purchase over 140 properties in the last 2 years without a single dud, and helping to determine the best use of $70 million to bring you today the Bankee method, how to find profitable Airbnbs. All right, we're going to get into it. With this method, you will become an Airbnb data expert, be able to find profitable Airbnbs, and be able to create the greatest Airbnbs in the world. So here's what you're going to get. If you're a person who lives in an area where Airbnbs don't cash flow, can't find a profitable market, needs to expand their business, or wants their dream family home in a place you'll love, then this is for you. Market selection mastery. Find the best market for you. By following this process, you'll understand which specific details to focus on when analyzing a market. Ultimately, this process will enable you to identify cash flowing markets without having to dedicate a week of research to each market. This process is so powerful. Competitors are now flooding my markets like you wouldn't believe. Literally, the markets I go into, people are just buying them because I go there, which is forcing me to use this same process to find new and even more promising markets. By following this process, you'll be able to recognize when you've discovered a profitable market and, more importantly, learn how to steer clear of less favorable ones, ultimately leading to the best markets for you. Market selection mastery is going to help you choose the best market for you, identify a market's regulations, resources to help you search, understand the 20% rule in depth, understand the new AirDNA to find the right markets, calculate max rent accurately, and be able to read a profit map. I've been working on this process since 2018. However, last year I put it in hyperdrive and I studied once again over 300 plus markets. I've dedicated countless hours to refining this process, investing thousands of dollars in data from various providers to ensure its accuracy and effectiveness. I've bundled this entire process for you, and I've done it for a fraction of my investment. I value that at $497. Now, let's say you already know what market you want to be in, Perhaps you've been in that market for a while now, or perhaps you prefer Airbnb in your hometown because you're fortunate enough to reside in a popular vacation destination. I made this for you. Buy box blueprint. Know exactly what to buy/rent. This is why I love building buy boxes. Majority of people study properties, not markets. They usually look for a property they can afford and that appeals to them, then check to see if it'll generate cash flow. This is ass backwards, guys. Stop doing this. You need to study the market first. By doing this, you uncover the market's inefficiencies. An inefficiency just simply means you can get something cheaper that makes more than most things in the market. You identify properties with the right attributes in the right purchase price, which enable them to generate better cash flow than any other property. And then you hunt for only the homes that meet the buy box criteria. This process is so powerful that it enabled us to discover a property that costs $360,000 to purchase, which generates $190,000 a year. And many more properties, all boasting a significantly higher price to rent ratio than our deal 20%. If you were able to find a deal like this, you'd be able to generate over $100,000 in free cash flow from one property. This is not the norm, okay? So I'll make that extremely clear. That is not normal. However, if it can be done once, it can be done again, as long as you know the process that led to that success, right? Buybox Blueprint is going to help you spot the most profitable portion of your market, identify the key revenue drivers, narrow down your criteria even further, find the inefficiencies within your market, and guide your hunt to the most profitable properties. Creating this process took me months upon months of building those 51 buy boxes and dedicated day in and day out research. However, refining those buy boxes over time and delving deeper into each of them was a 2-year process. And once again, the thousands spent on being able to access the many data points needed. And so I've now packaged together for you at an extremely discounted rate, the buy box blueprint, which is valued at $1,249. Here's what you're going to get. You're going to get the market selection mastery, which is going to help you find the best market for you. And then we're going to do you're going to get the buy box blueprint so that you know what's the absolute best thing to buy within that market for a total value of $1,746. Now, if you're someone who already knows their market well and understands the best investment opportunities within it, but wants to ensure the profitability of the potential purchase, or perhaps you've opted out of not studying the market beforehand and have fallen in love with a property, but you still want to forecast the revenue, or you already own a property and you want to turn it into an Airbnb, but you're not sure if it would be worth the time and investment, then this is for you. Property Evaluation Playbook. Accurately forecast revenue. Forecasting what the revenue will be for a property you're about to purchase is without a doubt the most important step. If you only learned how to forecast the revenue of a property, you would eventually find a profitable property. But more importantly, you would have avoided tons of bad deals. This process involves learning how to analyze all of your competitors and knowing which ones you'll beat and which ones you won't. By following a very specific and detailed process, you will avoid the mistake of missing the small details, which are the most important in the long run. This is the process that has allowed me to accurately predict the annual revenue of every property within the past 2 years. The data is available online for free. I'm accurate within 31% conservatively. I've already mentioned that multiple times. One thing I'm just going to stop here and pause and just mention this, guys. The data is online for free. Every single property that I have found and has been up and running, that has been live for over 150 days, you can see my track record. There are not many people out there that have done these things at this level and given away the track record, actually shown the numbers of how well things are going, the good and the bad, right? We show the numbers and it's available for free online, okay? I'm going to get into that a little bit further, but that's a really big deal is what I'm trying to say. This process has safeguarded my clients from ever purchasing a property that wouldn't cash flow, which in my opinion is the most crucial metric. If the property cash flows, you can hold it forever. Real estate always wins in the long run. The property valuation playbook will help you evaluate every every detail of the properties, determine the driving factors, produce an accurate revenue prediction, break down many example reports, realistically underwrite the property, understand what matters when underwriting, and know when you have a winner. This is a process I've done 1,000 times, which is crazy to say. It's a service that I've taught countless people how to do. It's also a service that I provide for $749 per property. And I have well over 100 people in the last 5 months have reached out to me for help with this process. It is, once again, the most important process. And all the secrets and finer details of this process can now be yours for $19.97. Here's what you're going to get. You're going to get the market selection mastery, once again, so you know the exact best market for you. Then you get the buybox blueprint so you can find the inefficiencies within your market. And then you're going to get the property valuation playbook so you can ensure the property you're about to purchase is actually going to generate cash flow. Total value of $3,743. What if you already have a property though, right? What if that property isn't generating enough? And what if you already have a property under contract and opted out of this entire process I showed you? For those of you in this situation and all of those eventually in this situation, I present to you design and amenities secrets. Make more with less. This is the secret sauce. It's what makes people envious of your Airbnbs and makes you eager to show them off. There is a formula that works across many markets. However, every market is a little bit different. Therefore, by learning this process, you'll have the playbook for any Airbnb and the knowledge to know how to amplify any property in any market. Once again, this process enabled one person to make $100,000 more than another, even though they were both had the same type of property. And what allowed us to profit $190,000 from a $360,000 purchase. These are real examples and real scenarios. They don't happen every day. However, if they happened once, they can happen again. Design and amenities playbooks gives you how to think about amenity investments, must-have versus nice-to-have amenities, how to identify top amenities, design basics, designing your ideal demographic, and the designer's do-it-yourself guide. All these design-related content is done by my good friend Diana, who has been the best designer and project manager with us over the last 2 years. Additionally, there's an exclusive 2-hour interview with Bridget and Blue from It's Bridget Bitch. This knowledge has definitely this knowledge was definitely the most expensive process to learn, tweak, and get right. Countless hours studying tens of thousands of Airbnb listings. That is no exaggeration. However, $70 million in real estate purchased, set up, tested strategies, and real data coming back with what works and what doesn't. And all this knowledge has been packaged for you for $14.97. Here's where you're going to get, guys. Once again, you're going to get the market selection mastery so you know the exactly best market for you. You're going to get the buy box blueprint so you know exactly what to buy within that market. You're going to get the property valuation playbook so that you can accurately forecast the revenue of the property you're about to purchase. And then you're going to get the design and amenities secrets so that you know exactly how to design it to maximize the amount of revenue out of that property for a total value of $5,240. Bring you guys the Bankee method. This is what I worked on for most of 2023. And it was a lot, right? So anyways, it took a long time to build this up, about over 6 years, though, of actually gaining this knowledge to get to this point of grouping it all together, packaging it all together like it is right now. To put this into context, I have 3 other free courses, right? So my other 3 free courses. The AirDNA course is a 3-hour and 38-minute course of free content. The Airbnb data sales course has 2 hours and 35 minutes of free content. The Airbnb data masterclass has 2 hours and 40 minutes of free content. Whereas the Bankee method has over 35 hours of training videos. I think it's actually closer to like 40 or potentially, I think it's close to 40 or maybe a little bit higher. We've been adding even more videos in there. So over 35 hours of training videos in comparison to those other ones, right? Every single finer detail of my process is shared in these videos. Every detail that, once again, has allowed me to help allocate $70 million plus, help purchase over 140 properties, ensure that all those properties cash flowed, determine how to maximize their revenue. And I did it all during the hardest time to buy real estate in decades. If all this process did for you was help you purchase one profitable property, what would that be worth it to you? What if that one Airbnb could make you $10,000 a year in free cash flow? What about 30? What about 60? What about $100,000 a year in free cash flow? Genuinely think about that. Like, how crazy would that be? Would it be worth it? Right? Wouldn't it? To learn a skill that you can use for the rest of your life, and better yet, a skill that teaches you how to make money, right? Can you see how that would be worth it? This is why I feel 100% confident that this training is well worth it at $5,240. However, it's even more worth it at half the price. You can get the Bankee method for $2,620. And just so you all know, the reason I even started this business in the first place was because of the amount of failing Airbnb stories that I heard, which I knew all could have been stopped if they had just known what I knew. With the worst horror story being a lady whose Airbnb loses her $3,000 a month. However, she can't sell the property because the value of the home went down by $300,000. Imagine the situation she's in. This kills me inside because I know how easily this could have been avoided. And so, at a minimum, if all this did for you was help you avoid bad deals, it would be worth its weight in gold. I've personally avoided 10 times more bad deals than the amount of good deals that I've ever found. That honestly should be 100 times more. And that is why this is the best offer that I've ever given at $2,620. However, because my company's mission is, once again, to ensure that no one buys an unprofitable Airbnb again, I am required to try and get this knowledge into as many minds as possible. It's the only way that I can live up to my mission, and therefore, I need to price this offer at a reasonable investment for everyone, and not just those who can afford it. Even though this is well worth it at $5,240, and even more so at $2,620, I've decided that I'm going to give you access to everything for the low price of $0. We're going to make it free. I can't see you guys, unfortunately, but I hope you are enjoying that. I'm just going to take a quick sip. I wish I could see you guys, but it is what it is. I hope you guys are as excited as I am about this. The Bankee method is free, guys. It's everything that I know, every single last step, process, how I've done things. I got to give it away for free, right? So now, hope you're enjoying that. Give a thumbs up if you're enjoying that. I appreciate it. Anyone who stuck through that entire thing I just did there, I hope you enjoyed it, because I did. All right, guys. But wait, there's more. When we started this workshop, I promised this would help two types of people. Those two types of people are the do-it-yourselfers who need to provide for themselves and their families, and those looking to work with the experts. By providing the Bankee method for free, I have lived up to my promise of helping people who fall in group one. In just a moment, I will let you know where to go to sign up for the Bankee method. But first, I have another major announcement. So for anyone who thought me giving away all of my course and all my details and all of my stuff was the major announcement that I kept telling you guys about, it actually wasn't. It was this is what I'm about to get into is actually the bigger announcement to me anyway. So I'm super excited, but cracks me up. I've done this presentation. I've practiced this presentation many, many times, and every single time I hit here, it makes me laugh. I don't know why, but it's just another major announcement wrapped up behind a major announcement. So let's get into it. For years, I've wanted to help more people. There are so many great deals out there that would cash flow, but I can't buy them all. And neither can some of my main clients, right? Therefore, deal after deal slips away. And it kills me because these people don't even understand how valuable the real estate is that they're buying, right? They're buying it for to be their own family home, or they're buying it as an Airbnb, but they don't realize what they could be doing with that property, and it kills me. And so after many, many conversations and planning and negotiating and strategizing, I can officially announce our greatest service yet, STR Search, Data Acquisitions Turnkey STRs. We find you profitable Airbnbs. Finally, we can finally do it. Anyone can now hire me and my team to find you properties. We have developed a white glove service for those looking to hire the experts with the best public track record in the industry. I'm going to stop here for a second, guys, one more time. And I'm going to stress how important it is that we have a public track record, because there are people out there that I know, not all of them, but there are some that claim to find people a lot of properties, right? And they find them properties and they get them into it, and they get these people to put their life savings into these properties. And I've seen some of these properties that they tell them to purchase, and it kills me inside because I know they're not good, and I know they're going to lose their shirts, and it drives me nuts. My track record is public. You can't see how well all of those homes are. Anyone can convince 100 people to go buy a home. But if you're not saying how well that home is actually performing, what does it matter, right? I have a public track record, and that is the most important piece of all of this. This is not, sorry, I get really emotional when I get into that. So I apologize. I get worked up, but let's get back into it. This is not just an email subscription list, okay? This is a curated service tailored to each and every client. We will learn your exact situation inside and out. We will determine the best markets for you. We will strategically build your portfolio. We will find you the most optimal properties for your situation. We will hold your hand through the entire process, and we will back up all of our claims and decisions with data. And we will introduce you to all of our preferred partners. You just need to be qualified, okay? Go to strsearch.com to schedule a call. You can schedule a call with one of our team members. They will be able to answer every single last question that you're going to have, because you're going to have a lot of questions, okay? Go there. You can see it right down there at the bottom of the screen, strsearch.com. Go there and you can schedule that call. But first, to give you a little bit more background on who you'll be working with, let's meet the team. Of course, there's me. I'm not going to spend any time here. Let's move to the next person who I'm super excited to introduce you guys to. If you don't already know him, Taylor Jones, head of acquisitions. He's going to be jumping on just shortly to be able to answer any questions you guys have. Taylor is the yin to my yang, and he has been for 2 years. I would not look nearly as good if it wasn't for Taylor. He is the optimist who sees everything amazing, and I've got to be the devil's advocate who kind of pokes all of the holes. And by this yin and yang scenario, we actually ended up with all these great properties. And it only made natural sense for him to be the head of acquisitions with STR Search as well. He's also head of sales. And Taylor Jones is the guy that if you schedule a call, you're going to get to speak with him. He is Mr. Jones STRs on Twitter and LinkedIn. Love this guy. Talk to him pretty well every single day for the past 2 years. So Jones is great. Now, next guy here, Dan Bordeaux. He is the head of data for STR Search. You might think, why am I not the head of data, right? Why would I bring in Dan? Well, Dan is actually ex-Google. So Dan used to forecast for Google. So I forecast Airbnbs, and he's over there forecasting the revenue for Google, at least a portion of it, right? And he's accurate within 5%. Dan is really, really good at what he does. And the way I explain Dan to people, when I hop on a call with him, it's like talking to myself. We just go back and forth nonstop, constantly on everything data related. He has so much knowledge already on Airbnbs. He has his own portfolio that he's built up as well. He was actually able to leave Google because of that. And yeah, Dan is great. I could not be happier to have him on our team and to be the head of data. He's taking if you thought I was good, he's taking it to another level so that we can actually bring this extreme service to everybody. So Dan is the man. I appreciate you, Dan. I love having you on the team as well. Now, guys, for the cherry on top of all of this, okay? So another announcement kind of behind all of this. Not only do we get the free course, not only can we now find properties, there's something else to go along with it as well. My company has been working with another company for over 2 years now, and we have put together some of the greatest Airbnbs in the world, such as these. This property here, you either love it or you hate it, but I don't care, because this is one of the most strategically designed properties we have ever done. And if you don't like it, you're supposed to not like it. This is hitting our demographic better than any other property that we've ever put out. There are so many finer details about this property that are so strategic. It's hard for me to explain. Go to the Bankee method, though. There's over 35 hours of free content that you can go through that's going to teach you all the finer details of this. But this is one of those properties. Here's another one of these properties, which is just, to me, this one's like elegantly beautiful. It flows so perfectly. I love the way it looks. I love the colors. I love how we put this all together. This one here is hands down one of my favorites for a variety of reasons, which I can't get into. But this one is what I would refer to as the top of the top. This is our best work to date. I know that first one, I said it hits a demographic really well. This one hits its own demographic in a very specific way, and it works so well. I love this property for so many reasons. And yeah, guys, again, this is what we do, right? If you liked the design of those properties or the amenities of those properties, right? Or the flow of those properties. Some of you might not even know what I mean by flow, but when you're putting together an Airbnb, the flow of it is so important. It's not even funny. The way that everything works can like make or break a listing. We actually have had multiple listings break because they didn't have a good flow, which is next level stuff. Again, Bankee method, guys. Go sign up for that. I'll explain where to go in just a moment. If you liked all this stuff, right? If you like the design, if you like the amenities, if you liked the flow, then you're going to love this. The same company that designed, project managed, and constructed all of those properties is STR Cribs. It's not my company, but it's the company that I've been working with side by side for 2 years now to help bring all this to life. And they are now able to work with absolutely anybody, okay? STR Cribs is the company that I've worked with for over 2 years, like I mentioned, to bring all of my data-backed amenities to life. So I would study the market. I'd figure out the best amenities. I'd figure out sort of like the best demographic. And I would kind of bring them this list of like, hey, this is what we need. And then they would take it and then just turn it into something I can't even imagine, which are those properties we just walked through. So that's what I brought to the table. But that really, they're the ones who, once again, if it wasn't for them, it wouldn't look nearly as good, right? And the reason this is the cherry on top, okay, the cherry on top of the cherry on top, if you can imagine that, when you hire STR Search to find you the best possible property, you can seamlessly get handed off to STR Cribs to have them build you one of the greatest Airbnbs in America, okay? And the bonus of all bonuses is that you can get a discount from them when coming through STR Search. And so, to summarize, guys, because we've kind of gone through a lot here, we've talked about a lot, I want to summarize this and make it really clear and easy to remember everything that we just did. For the do-it-yourselfers, right? You now have free access to the best Airbnb data training in the world. Everything is in there, 35 hours, everything. I purposely built it all up so you guys can realize how big of a deal it is that this now is free and exists, okay? If you follow the Bankee method, it will help you find profitable Airbnbs, which is what I promised at the beginning of this. And I taught you a little bit, but now you have access to everything for free. And for those of you looking to work with the experts, you can now hire us and have everything done for you from start to finish. Pretty cool, right? I think it's pretty cool. That's why I added that in there. So now let's get into questions. I'm going to hop out of here. Oh, and sorry. So for everyone who wants the Bankee method, go to STR Search. I'll just show you right now. So if you go to STR Search, right, which you can see right here, and you can go to this button right here. It says free courses. If you click that, it's going to give you the Bankee method for free. You can sign up for free and you're going to get access to everything. Okay. There's also all my other free courses are in there as well. And some other additional stuff too. So jump on in there. There's a resources page. There's templates in there. There's everything in there that you need. All right. And now I'm going to hop back over to here. Hopefully I didn't lose too many people during that semi-fake sales pitch, but let's get into it, guys. I just got back to being able to see the comments. I hope you guys are enjoying this. Let's go. So I want you guys to ask any questions that you might have. I'm going to bring Mr. Jones up here. So Jones, come onto the stage. How you doing, Taylor? You got to unmute yourself.
What's up? What's up?
Good. How was that? Was that good?
Oh man, I love watching you do your thing. Getting in the zone. I've seen it for 2 straight years. I always say your passion is showing, and that's the joke I make. So it's really great to see and really awesome to kind of bring this to the masses.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. That is one thing that I genuinely cannot help, and you know it better than anyone, is that once I get going. I'm obsessed with this stuff for whatever reason. It is what it is. But guys, we've got some time here for some questions. So if you want to pop in questions, if you have the option to actually do that, which you should, I can see a couple of them coming through here. We want to get these questions rolling and going to be able to answer it. And we'll stick around for just a little bit to answer as many as we possibly can. Yeah. So like baby items as well. I'm just reading through the comments right now. Out of families, what is the most profitable age of kids to okay, so let me just pull this one up. Let's go. Lauren asks, I have a question for you. Out of families, what is the most profitable age of kids to tailor towards for a lake house, holiday, older kids, or under 5? Would it be smart to have a range of amenities? So love this question. And the answer is it depends. Straight up. I mean, it depends on the market, right? So partially depends. Let me just put it that way. And Taylor, you can, give your comment to this. But the way I always say this is every single market is different, and every single market has a different demographic. So, you're talking about like a Michigan lake, or you're talking about a lake out in Arizona, right? Like those might be different types of people and different types of demographics. Even the lake that you're referring to, is it a small lake or is it a large lake, right? Those are going to make a difference as well too. So what I would say is that try to see what everyone else is doing within your area, and try to see if they are targeting a specific age group. Now, what I would say, and one of the things we do, is we actually try more often to hit the age group between like 8 and 16, right? So 8 and 16, that could be like pop a shot, that could be pool, that could be foosball, right? They're tall enough to be able to play those things. And then what you could do is you can take one of the rooms that you have, and just create like a little under 5 age group space, right? That might be some a little teepee tent, that might be some little toys that they can play with, maybe like a coloring book, right? All those different little things is what you can do to hit that demographic. And you just need to take one photo of that, and then the mom's going to see that and be like, oh, my toddler can go hang out there, well, the other guys hang out there. So that's my take. Taylor, what's yours?
No, you said it best. There's nothing really to add there. So you nailed it. You can blend the best of both while primarily mostly applying to the over 5 crowd while still looping in the under 5. So all well there.
Perfect. So I'm going to try and stay focused on data questions, guys. This is another one here. So how do you research the demographics? It's in the Bankee method, so you can go through that and learn it. But everything that we're probably going to talk about here is going to be in the Bankee method. But it's okay. So what you would want to do is try to see what the top performing properties, what style that they've used, right? There's some examples without giving out exact details, because I could be giving away some secrets that I don't want to give away. But there's some markets where if you were to go and look at those markets, you would notice that a lot of the top performing properties are all pink. They're all designed heavily pink, right? What demographic is hitting all pink? Now, if you realize that, you can realize that those people are paying the most. And so, and therefore, maybe they're a good group to strategize and focus in and really create a curated experience specifically for them, right? And that, again, is going to matter market by market. And sometimes if you're in a market that's not well developed, you're going to have you're not really going to have anybody who's really being smart about the demographics. And so instead you have to think, what is the most ideal demographic for this specific type of market? And then you create a listing that amplifies their experience. And the way I always explain this, it is the Disney World strategy, right? So why does everybody love Disney World? Because it hyper focuses on a very specific demographic and brings everything to life and brings people into this immersive experience. You can do that with your Airbnb for the very specific demographic. It doesn't need to just be kids. It can be large groups of women. If you can create a curated experience, they're going to pay more money for it, right? That's just how it goes. Taylor, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I've seen everything from, you can do the old school, go to your top performers, go to their reviews, hit Control F and start filtering for keywords, kids, families, bachelor, bachelorette, dudes, golf outing, all of your key demographics. You can take those 8 to 12 different categories and just start doing Control F and seeing, okay, this listing that has 100, how many times does the word bachelor, bachelorette, families, kids, groups come up? And you can start running your own little in Excel model. I've seen that strategy worked out really well. And it's very easy to see, 33% of all reviews have the word kids in it, or families, or groups, or dudes, or bros, or whatever it might be. And that's a real easy way, because that's telling you these people have stayed here. It is a fact. They've told it to you, and all the top performers have it in those reviews.
Perfect. Here's the next one that we got going. I am bringing this one up because it happens all the time. Do you guys help identify specific markets within a list of states in America? We do not. That is not a service that we provide. To point you to a specific market and tell you exactly what to buy is a lot of work to do. in all reality, it's a lot of work to do. You have to study a ridiculous amount of markets, and it's not something that we can just like hand off to people left and right. And then on top of that, if we tell you to go in there, it's like, what exactly do you buy? And then on top of that, we might be pointing you to like the amount of finer details. I've said this so many times on this call already, but the amount of finer details that we look for in every single one of the properties that we are about to purchase before we actually get it is ridiculous. Like, again, Taylor and I talk every single day over different properties, and it's the smallest things that will turn us off from a property. And so if I tell you, hey, go look into this market, there's so many things that you need to know still for that market to actually work for you, like a laundry list of things that you need to know. And so we can't just say, hey, go to that market. It just doesn't. I've had a ridiculous amount of people ask me for this specific service. I've thought about it for 2 years straight on how I could actually do it, and there's no effective way to actually point people to markets properly, right? So I'm sure you get that one as well, Taylor.
Yeah, you'd be doing a disservice. There's so much nuance that just saying the market is less than half of it. I can't even say that's, oh, that's half of it. Like, there's so much nuance. Just because you're in the right area and you think it's a good market doesn't even barely set you up for success. You still have the risk of buying a bad property, not cash flowing, having the wrong amenities with the wrong design on the wrong part of town with the wrong bedroom count. So yeah, it'd be doing a disservice to anybody to just be doing locations rather than actual properties.
Yeah, appreciate it. All right, so I'm gonna bring up this one by Steven. Do you see that one there, Taylor?
Nope.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm
Not
bringing it
yet.
up anyways. So this one here
There we
is,
go.
how does
There
this
we go.
service compare to STR Insights Property Finder, right? First off, love you, Kenny. I genuinely do. You're a great dude. I think everyone loves Kenny. He's a really good guy. Okay. If you want me to be actually answer this properly and you want to know the difference between us, it's my track record. Okay. My public track record, which I emphasized like you wouldn't believe during that call. We have the actual data available online. If you can go look up TechVestor, go look up our public data. It's available. Okay. And so we show you that the properties that we have actually found are actually profitable. I don't know the inner finer details of Kenny's process or anything along those lines, but I know what I've done extraordinarily well. I know how deep I go into every single buy box. We do not, if you came to us and said, hey, we want to go to the middle of nowhere, we say, sorry, that's not how we operate, right? We have curated buy boxes. We know exactly what works within those buy boxes. We have them dialed in into the finest little details, and we know that those properties are the properties that are going to give you the absolute best chance of actually working out in the long run. And the way that I see this is that all I care about is that you can find properties that are good buys that actually cash flow, because then next year you're going to come back again and ask us to find you another one. And what I want is I want a client for the next 10 years, because that's a good business model. And so all I care about is ensuring that every single property that you get is going to cash flow, because if you can hold it for the long run, it's always going to work out in the long run. Okay. So again, love you, Kenny. Genuinely do. You're a great dude. But that is the main difference between the two of us, guys. And that matters a lot. Okay. A lot. Just want to point that one out.
Yeah,
Anything you
I
want to say
look at
there?
it, if I'm going into surgery, do I want somebody who's done far more, has a track record and history of successful, non-fatal, surgeries as I get cut
100%
open?
track record. A 100%
Yeah,
track
yeah,
record.
yeah. Or something with less that hasn't quite done. It's pretty straightforward because you're going to make that decision. Same thing if you're going for a court case. Do you want an attorney who has been in that courtroom with the multiple year track record across 150 plus properties, or a newer attorney with not quite as much track record? It's pretty straightforward. So, at the end of the day, I just look at the scoreboard. It's pretty straightforward.
Appreciate it. Okay, so we're going to keep rolling here. So are hot markets still profitable or saturated, such as Fort Lauderdale, Miami, Clearwater, or other states, Gatlinburg, Tennessee, etc.? Depends, guys. It literally depends. I know where to find profitable properties in a few of the markets that you just listed there, because I have some of these markets dialed in left and right. There's other ones that I don't, but I know that if you really deep dive those markets extraordinarily well, you can find cash flowing Airbnbs. I personally, I love a competitive market. You know why? Because there's a ridiculous amount of money going to that market. There are people who want to pay an arm and a leg to stay at those properties because it is extraordinarily desirable. And so what does that mean? It means that you can make a, $200,000 a year from one property because people are dying to go to that market. So if I can then have the knowledge to know how to put together one of the best Airbnbs within that market because I've studied it and inside and out, therefore I should be excited to go to that market because I know I can have one of the top performers, right? That's how I've always looked at these markets. Taylor, your thoughts?
Yeah, I love when people say, "Oh, is it saturated?" Well, if you buy the wrong product in the wrong part of town with the wrong amenities, sure, you could run into saturation. For
Yep.
example, if I go to Broken Bow and buy a 1 or 2 bedroom, which makes up 50% of the supply, so if I go in and want to go appeal to couples and half of the supply is just 1 and 2 bedrooms, yeah, you're going to be hurting and struggling for profitability rather than buying the best ideal product for that market, which is not a 1 or 2 bedroom in that example. So to say it depends is not a cop out, but truly it does depend on the market and what is the best opportunity to buy based on where's the supply and demand imbalance. And for example, in Broken Bow, there is a huge supply demand imbalance where it's too much on 1 and 2 bedrooms. And I would avoid those like the plague. Rather, there's opportunities in the 3+ segment in quote unquote a saturated market. And you could run that for Fort Lauderdale, for Miami, for Clearwater, for Gatlinburg, for Disney, for Joshua Tree. The data is there. It's just understanding which segment and SKU works and which one doesn't, and avoiding that one.
Yeah, and I've got, again, there's a way to learn about if a market is saturated or not within the Bankee method. It's a pretty straightforward process, but even within a market that I'm in markets that are that would be considered saturated, technically, like slightly saturated, and we still have properties that work extremely well. And the whole Airbnb bust that everyone was talking about was not felt on this side of this situation. Okay, so it's just do the research, guys, is what I'm trying to say, or hire us. You can do that too now, officially. Would you encourage/recommend Airbnb arbitrage for starters? So one thing I didn't mention, guys, I'll right after this. One thing I didn't mention, guys, is that I actually have 2 additional courses in the Bankee method. One called the Airbnb Starter Pack. So it's just like Airbnb basics, and then also Airbnb data basics. So you can actually learn everything about Airbnb data and just like how to get started. And one thing that I always recommend is you don't have to start with arbitrage. It's technically the riskiest way to get started. There's free ways that you can get started. Now, sometimes the free ways are really difficult to actually make happen, and then therefore just doing arbitrage is kind of easier. But what I mean by that is that you could ask to manage somebody's Airbnb for free, or take over part of it, or ask to learn from them. Be like, hey, I will literally work for free on your property and like handle these things just to learn how to do this. That's a very free way to get started, to figure out if you even like Airbnb in the first place, right? Put some time into it and get a feel for it. And then if you do, you'll start to learn how this stuff actually works, give you time to study this stuff, learn the data process to be able to find a good property that would actually work out as an arbitrage deal. So that's my take. Taylor, your take?
Yeah, my biggest gripe with all the quote unquote arbitrage bros on social media is that the risks that are associated with arbitrage are never pointed out. I am not saying it is a bad way to get started, especially if you have no money. It is one of the quote unquote low cost ways to get involved, but not a single one of the quote unquote arbitrage bros, and I'm going to call them out, actually tells you the risks and the downside. So please understand all of the risks and downside, because they're all selling you the Lamborghinis that they're shooting the video in front of, which is probably rented, and all the other, upsides if everything goes right. But you are ultimately signing a liability, aka a long-term lease. You are signing a liability on a brand new business that you've never done before. Just take that sentence and chew on that for a second. You are signing for a long-term liability on a business you've never done before,
Yeah.
and a multitude of other things. So please understand the risks. And if you can overcome them and swallow them, then by all means, it can be a great way to start generating cash. But please understand what you're getting into, because I know way too many people have been burned.
Yeah, I'd agree with that as well. It's not an easy thing to do. Let's just put it that way. And guys, I forgot that somewhat forgot, but the underwriting sheet that I told you about, I just put it in the chat. So it's now in the chat. You guys can see it in there. It's in the YouTube chat. So everyone should have access to that. If you don't, it's going to be sent out. I can see a whole bunch of people jumping into it right now. Guys, you need to make a copy of this. So I want you to go to the instructions are on the very first tab. It says sign in, go to file, make a copy, and go from there. Okay. And I'm going to just show that because I know that sometimes that can be not understood. Do not request edit access, please. Please, 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 because that's going to drive me nuts. I'm going to go and share the screen so you can see exactly what I mean. If we are
We're
here,
gonna cut you, we're gonna cut your access if you request access.
yeah, we won't actually, but you can see here, go to file, go make a copy. And when you make a copy, it's going to duplicate it and you're going to have your own editable version. Okay. So you have all that stuff there for you guys and you're ready to go. And in the Bankee method, there's actually an entire, 4-step video that is a tutorial on how to actually do this. So, or how to use it, how to think about it, how to understand it. Cause I want to make sure that you guys understood exactly what you were getting as well, obviously. So, that is in the Bankee method. We thought about quite a few different things. All right, Taylor, let's answer a couple more questions and then we can go from there. I can see there's one here. Okay, so this is a good one. In your experience, how accurate are the estimated revenues from AirDNA, Rabu, and other sites? So, Taylor's already laughing.
Wow, what a question!
Hold on. There's a lot to unpack on this one. Okay, and I feel like we've gone to the point. To how do I explain this? I love AirDNA, guys. I genuinely do. Everything that I have done has been off of the software of AirDNA, right? Like everything I know. And Jamie, head of data over at AirDNA, I love you as well, man. Genuinely do. You guys have created the best software out there. Okay. Let me just make that statement. However, they are scraping data. Okay. So they don't have, it's not like AirDNA is just giving them the data and they're just posting it then on this website. They're scraping it out, which is a different process of being able to get it. And it's not 100% accurate. Okay. I talk about this stuff a lot. The Airbnb Data Basics talks about good versus bad data and what you need to know and how to learn it. So it's in the Bankee method again. But with the data, whether it be AirDNA, Rabu, Price Labs, I don't care what it is, guys. Some of the data is good, some of the data is bad. What you have to do is you have to work through the process of removing the bad data. I have a full-time employee who cleans data. Okay, that's all she does is clean the data. So we remove a lot of this data that I used to call bad data, but it's actually just useless at this time period. So in other words, it hasn't been around for an entire year. And so it's kind of useless. And so we have to get rid of it, right? But the remaining data, if you can get the remaining data and you can ensure that it's good data, okay, then you will be able to use it in a way to make sure that it's actually going to be profitable. Does that make sense? I don't think I explained that. What I'm trying to say is make sure you do everything you can to remove the bad data, only work with the good data. And even with that good data, try to make sure you have at least five comps to find that trend in the data and never rely on just one single comp ever. Okay. Because you're going to shoot yourself in the foot if you do that. Again, in the Airbnb Data Basics, good data versus bad data. You can also go to my YouTube and type in Airbnb good data versus bad data. It's on there as well. Anything you want to say, Taylor?
No, I always say they're directionally correct. If they were perfectly accurate, this asset class would instantly shrink, yields would compress. If it was just as easy as, oh, this property is going to exactly do 187K and I can buy it for Y, BlackRock, Blackstone, Starwood, every institution would come in and buy it up because then it would become just like every other asset class. Kind of the opportunity here is finding inefficiencies in the market because this asset class is so new that you're able to capitalize on it by understanding how to leverage the data. If it was perfectly accurate 100% of the time, guess what? Every institution would be in here. They would buy everything up. All of your 10 and 20 cash on cashes you hear about would be out the door. Everything will get compressed down, just like multifamily, down to single digits, and institutions would run the show. The good news is that is not the case. And so there is opportunity, but you have to understand how to leverage it.
Well said. Appreciate it. I'm trying to see, it looks like some of the things are coming in and some of them aren't, but we'll take one more question. This is a good one to end on. Where can we find the free course? So again, for the remaining 138 people that are on here, go to strsearch.com. I definitely should have had a little banner that popped up, but strsearch.com is what you want to go to. I will go to the very last. There was a lot of slides that we went through here. Maybe I can do it quicker this way. Look at that. Give me 1 second here, guys. strsearch.com. I should probably just put it directly in the chat, but you get the idea. Let me remove that actually because it's not working. All right, we're going to remove that. I'm going to put it in the chat. strsearch.com. And guys, if you want to learn how to do this yourself, if you just learn the Bankee method, you can avoid a bad deal and you can figure everything else out afterwards. That has always been my logic and strategy. The stuff afterwards is easy. Getting the wrong property in the wrong market, in the wrong location, with the wrong everything is what kills people in this industry. And also is all the people who complained about the Airbnb bust were those people. Okay. Get the right property first and then figure everything else out. Right. This content should not be anyways. So, okay. That's all I'm going to say. If you want to hire an expert, myself, Taylor, Dan, everyone else on the team, we will find you a profitable property. You can work with STR Cribs to turn it into one of the greatest properties in America. It is, I could not be more excited to bring this service finally to retail people, retail public, everyone, because I've only been working with institutions for the past 2 years. We can finally do it. We've created a service. I'm excited about it. Taylor, do you want to add your 2 cents in before we hop off?
No, man. Looking forward to helping people. Really, I think there's a huge knowledge gap, and what you're doing is able to help close people. Also, too, there's so many busy professionals, people who don't want to mess it up, especially if it is their first one or their second one, and they had a bad experience in the first, go around. This service is just to solidify your investment. Make sure you get the best cash flowing opportunity, whatever your buy box is. Hey, I only want East Coast. Hey, I only want 400K because that's my budget. Or, hey, I want 1 million. Understanding what the best thing you can buy for that budget and for that buy box is really what we focus in to execute so that you can get the best cash flowing opportunity on your personal investment.
Yeah. And someone just asked, where do we schedule a call? On the same site? Yes, on the same site. The top right corner says schedule a call. There's a bunch of buttons where it gets you to schedule a call. You can directly schedule a call. Taylor, he's got his calendar open for 10 days, which will most likely book up. So try and book it faster than you can. There's something else. Oh, yeah, guys, the main reason we're doing this too, okay? One of the main reasons, and you just kind of mentioned it there, Taylor, and I'm going to wrap up right after this, I promise. But there are a lot of people who are looking to take advantage of the STR tax strategy, right? Where you can get an STR and it helps write off a lot of your taxes. And those people we're going to be working a lot with, right? And the reason being is because those people are experts in what they do. We're experts in what we do. And so a lot of people are trying to take advantage of this strategy, but then they're buying properties that are not cash flowing. And I've talked with a lot of them. Again, people tell me these things, right? I've talked with a lot of them. They're like, oh, it's no big deal. It loses me $2,000 a month, but I just saved a whack load on taxes. I go, yeah, that's great. But how long are you going to hold the property for? Right? Like, how long can you continue to do that? And why would you do that if you don't have to? Right? And so really that's what we're trying to do here is like, hey, we're the experts of what we do. We know how to find these properties. We have an amazing public track record, in case you guys didn't know. So hire us to do that if you are an expert in your own field, right? If you're an engineer or if you're a computer scientist or if you're a doctor, whatever it may be, you can hire the real estate experts to be able to do that for you. So those are my closing remarks. Taylor, you want to say one last thing before we hop off, or are we getting out of here?
We're good, man. Let's roll.
We're good. All right, guys. I hope you appreciate this. It took quite a bit to get to this point, but sign up for it, guys, and let everyone know that this exists. It's free content, guys. Let everyone know. All right. I'll see you later. Have a good night.